to help other vets. You know, I realized after what I went through that, you know, I can maybe be an inspiration for another vet. Because, I mean, I went from being a soldier to being homeless. I lost my wife. I lost everything. And I got it all back. And it all came back. I mean, the wife that I was married to 10 years, she left me for 7, but we got remarried again. I had a house. We lost that. I ended up being homeless. I got a house again. So I just want to be inspiration. Let the vets know, don't give up. You know, don't give up. Don't give in. It's time to heal.
And so how long were you without a home for?
A couple weeks. Downtown LA by the courthouse.
And so what was like your transition going from such a structured environment to that, and then trying to refine balance and structure in your life?
I mean, I just looked at my life like, what happened? And I was downtown, and by the courthouse, there's like a heater area. It's cold, and I would be by the heater area, and a vet reached out to me, and he was like, you know, are you a vet? And I said, yeah. And combat vet. I showed him yes, and you know, he reached out and said, I can get you a place to be. And I was like, I had nowhere to go. So he got me into a place called U.S. Vets, and you know, I got sober. Well, I came out of rehab. I was already sober, but I stayed sober, and I started working on getting myself together because I had a massive criminal record. I had a shootout with the cops. I was drug charges, weapons charges. 'Cause, I always wanted to have a gun with me because I had anxiety bad, but I didn't realize it. Everyone else realized it but me.
So, so would you say that coming out of the Navy, that's when you started to rack up like criminal charges and stuff like that?
It took a while. It was maybe within a year, but I started like breaking down. I would feel bad about things. Sometimes I would cry for no reason. I don't even know why. And then I'd be mad at myself because I'm crying, and I would be like, I'm not a little bitch. And then I would try to make myself angry, and I would pull away from people, and I would make myself cold to people because I didn't want them to know that I was hurting inside.
So were your Navy brothers the people you were like leaning on at this time?
I was leaning on a few of them. I had my wife I was leaning on, but I didn't want my wife to know what I was going through because you don't want her to know you're weak at the time. And I had a few of my buddies that I would lean on too, but they started having issues too.
During that time, would you say that like were each of you guys able to like overcome the issue?
There was a lot of up and downs, but we would we would just try to overlook it and laugh about it, make a joke about it. And one of the close buddies, we used to call him the gardener. He couldn't deal with it, and he was just laughing about it. And then I remember November 14th, I went to his house and he committed suicide. And then after that, it was just downhill for me.
What was really the turning point to make you go back uphill to where you are today?
I had a lot of vets reach out to me for help. And I didn't know what to do, but I was like, I didn't want to see another person commit suicide. There were like 4 total soon after I got back, and then there's been a few more since then, but it's, you know, I couldn't handle it if I didn't want my kids to see me like this. You know, I lost my wife, and I wanted my family back. There were just so many things that I couldn't live that way. And I was actually trying to kill myself for a while. I ended up, having a little shootout with the cops, hoping I would die, but I didn't. Just a lot of little issues, and I reached out for help. And then, I had people there for me, good people that were helping me, because when I first reached out for help for the VA, we had a Dr. Schlussenberg. He told me I was crazy, and I got mad. I was like, I'm not crazy. I knew I had an issue, just didn't know that it was PTSD at the time. But they treated me like I was, oh, you're just crazy.
And so, like, how do you balance out, like, dealing with PTSD, dealing with all the effects of everything that's kind of happening today?
I stay sober. I mean, I'm coming up on 18 years sober. I stay sober, and I do a lot to reach out to vets. Because the more I help them, the more I'm actually helping myself. But I'm always reaching out for vets, trying to see what I can do to help them. And, I realize now that I was stuck. And I couldn't move, and I was just stuck. And I realize now that a lot of the vets that are homeless or that are, doing this, they have the same issue. They're stuck. And they don't know how to become unstuck. So now I kind of, from what I went through, I realized that, it could be one little thing. Some of them, they could have got a DUI when they came back, and then they lost their license, and then they get stuck, and they don't know how to heal from it. And if the more I help others, the more it helps me heal. But I mean, it took a while for me to get unstuck.
As he was talking, he was saying that like drinking and drugs was like the easiest thing to cope for him. Was that like automatically kind of the go-to, or was it like kind of a descent into it, or did he start in the Navy? Because he said his actually started there.
I started having issues in the Navy before I got out, and drinking made it easier. But when I started having nightmares, I needed something to stop me from having nightmares, and I turned to meth, because if you don't sleep, you don't have nightmares. And eventually, when you're like up for a day or two and you finally fall asleep, you don't remember any nightmares because your body's just crashed. But I mean, if you don't sleep, no nightmares. And when I really needed help, I didn't know who to reach out to.
And so was this beginning like phase? Was this actually like while you were deployed?
During the Iraq War, we had a Lieutenant Turner. We used to call him Magnum PI. He had this big mustache, and he was always about the guys. He would play basketball with us, and when you're overseas, like your master chiefs, your lieutenants, they're like your grandpa, your dad, your sea family, and he was just really good to us. And I remember I used to always call him Magnum. We used to talk, and really good guy. And I remember when he went on his mission, he didn't come back. And it hurt, and I started realizing, like, it started to affect me, and I started, we would go to a port, and I would start drinking more because it was really hurting. I mean, he was a good guy, really good guy. I mean, still to this day, I mean, I remember what happened, and it started changing me.
Would you say there were a lot of people in the Navy also like trying to cope with like similar things at the same time?
Yes. A lot of us are on Facebook, and we're talking about it, and they still, to this day, they bring it up like, man, they still miss LT.
And was that like, probably, would you say that was like the closest person to pass while you were in deployment?
He was one of them. I had another guy that passed, but it was my thinking was changing. I was like, well, we in the Philippines, and the guy was drinking in a hotel and something happened, but it was like I wasn't as close to him. But Lieutenant Turner, he was like the people person. Always around us, and he would see you in the you see in the passageways and stuff. He'd smile at you. He'd tell you hello. He was really like a good lieutenant. He was different. Like some officers, they don't really talk to you, and they but he was I was checked on you, and he was actually from another division, but really friendly with all of us.
And how was your relationship with the lieutenant that followed him?
Didn't talk to him. I started to stay to myself. I mean, I had my master chief that was really cool with me. He'd always check on us. And there's a lot of people on our command that were really caring people, but I started changing. I didn't want to get close to anybody.
How is like now seeing your kids join the military? How is has your view of the military changed? How do you are you supportive of your kids joining?
I mean, I support him because it's a family tradition, and I see how the military. I still respect the military. I mean, it did a lot. It helped me a lot. I don't know. I think nothing wrong with the military. I just think some of the politics got in. I don't like it anymore. But that's not the military's fault, really. I was proud of him. I mean, third generation. I mean, I talk to my kids a lot, and I tell them what to look out for, and I'm a lot wiser now, and I can see things, before you just can sense it, and I explain to them how it's going to be, because, I didn't know what it was going to be like when I get in, and then it was kind of like, hey, kind of like a high school, you're a bunch of people your same age that you meet and stuff, the beginning of school year, you go real close with them, but you don't expect them to die. And I told my son, just be careful. I was going to open mind, but, and I always tell him to talk to me, because I know I've been there.
So that your mindset starts to transition after the second deployment. So by the third, are you is that where you're starting to become that's where the wall is really starting
Yes.
to build up? And where were you in the third one?
We're in Iraq and Somalia.
Okay, so that was the held highway.
Well, no, the highway of death was the end of the first Iraq War. And then we went back again for Southern Watch, Provide Hope, Restore Relief, and that stuff in Somalia. And that's when I was already, my guard was up already. I was different. I was scared to get close to people, and I didn't want to get to know people. I stopped myself from getting to know anybody and letting them get to know me, because I didn't want to get hurt. Didn't want to get close to somebody and then they die. Our deployments. So the first one it was a partial deployment in Lebanon. The second one was Kuwait, Iraq, and then the third one was Iraq and Somalia. But I don't know how, but I just started. I realize now I just started after the second one. I was pushing away from everybody, and it's funny because now we all got in touch with each other through different social media, and we all talk, and we all realized around the same time we all started pushing away. We all started doing the same thing. Well, the highway of death was a highway leading from Kuwait to Iraq, and as people were leaving to go back home, and we didn't know they were surrendering, they were coming home, we were loading up bombs on planes, and they bombed everything, and it's like thousands of people got killed. And then they'd come back with all the pictures, and we're like, at that time, at the time we're like, who cares, and that's to get them, and we're writing notes on the bombs, F Saddam and stuff. But then later when you find out that they were going home to be with their families, and then I was like, man, that's all I want to do is go home and be with my family. It started to hit us, and we all started. We would talk once in a while, and we were like, man, I feel bad about that, man. I mean, because imagine I wanted to go home with my family, and someone's gonna kill me before I get there, because of it got to us. And I think we have the highest suicide rate. Those guys, yeah. There's a lot of us that, it hurt.
Did you ever disagree with your orders?
Not there. I mean, you can't disagree. You just do your job.
I mean, and did you ever feel did you ever feel conflicted
No, I never felt, I just did my job. I didn't feel nothing. I remember we were loading up, we'd help load bombs and stuff in play. It didn't hurt me until it was later that we found out that they were giving up to go home, and then it hurt me. Because then I kind of like, man, imagine if that was me. I just want to go home, be with my family or something. Then it started hurting me, and I was like, I kind of felt bad. I mean, we had Dick Cheney telling them they're going to, telling us, oh, they're coming back for this, and we're, just doing our job. But I felt bad. I mean, I don't like seeing people killed. I don't like seeing people hurt. And then having friends that I served with that commit suicide behind it, so then it was like a double whammy. So not only am I feeling bad for the people that got hurt, I'm feeling my friends, the buddies, my shipmates, my brothers that are killing themselves behind it because they felt the same way. I was trying to do the right thing. To come back, I would look for a job. I'd get a job, but I had all this anger. And I remember my HR yelled at me one day, and I yelled back, and I was like, I'll kill you. I felt bad. I mean, I had this anger that was uncontrollable. I couldn't control you say something wrong to me, I'm like in your face and ready to hurt you, but it was just a lot of anger. I couldn't control it. So I would stay away from people. I was unemployed for a long time, and my wife was actually supporting us, but I couldn't deal with it. I was angry, and I couldn't deal with it, so I would have to, drink or get high. So they were both doing the same thing, and then I'd get more mad because I'm doing this, but then I'd have to do more to deal with the anger. So it just kept compounding, So I'm mad, and I got this anger, so to deal with it, I would drink. But then I'm mad at myself because why am I drinking doing this? So I'd get even more mad. So then I had to drink even more. So then I couldn't deal with it, and drinking was enough. So I had to turn to other stuff to help me deal with it. And then I'm having nightmares. So it was like the more I was hurt, depressed, or anger, the more I had to use of drinking and and drugs. And then I'd be mad at myself for doing that, but then I'd have to use more because I had to get over anger. But then I get mad again, so I had to. It was like a never-ending circle.
So would you redo your experiences, and if you could, would you do would you sign?
The funny thing is, I would go back again. If I could, I would. But I don't think so because my PTSD is kind of too bad. But I mean, I love the camaraderie with the brotherhood we had, and that's the thing is like these guys you serve with, man. I mean, didn't matter what color they were, what religion or ethnicality. I mean, they're my brothers. I mean, I can go to certain places, man, and I'll see some of the guys, and he could be Asian, it'll be a black guy, or different people, and we hug, and it's a brotherhood because we're family. And I love that camaraderie because there was no racism, there was none of this. It was just, you're my brother, and I miss that. And my wife was the love of my life. We've been together. She's been part of my life for like 29 years. So we were married 10 years. And I was drinking, getting high, just, running out all night, just, I had an affair, but I was doing stuff because I was drunk or high. And when she left me, I hit rock bottom. I was sober. I came out of rehab and I was sober, and she left me, and I wanted her back because I realized I'm, not having her, I'm not going to have my kids as often. Everything hit me at once. And I had to deal with it sober. If I was high, maybe it would have been easier, and I could have been like, who cares next? But I was sober, and I had to deal with it. And 7 years, I always wanted her back. There were times I used to beg her to come back. Just give me one more chance. And I'm sober now. Give me a chance. She'd want nothing to do with me. And eventually I was like, I got a really good job doing cable TV, and I was making a lot of money. And I was like, I'm just gonna focus on my kids. And I remember I would do stuff with the kids, and they would come home, Mama, we this with Dad. And she started noticing that. And I was doing good. I was able to pay my bills. I'm working. I'm doing the right thing. And she started noticing. And next thing you know, it was like, I remember she got laid off. And I was able to hand her a credit card and say, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you and the kids," because she's always been the love of my life. And I was able to do this stuff for her. And then next, we're going out to get dinners and stuff, and we're holding hands. It was like being my girlfriend again. And after, so we were 10 years married, 7 years divorced. Then I had to court her again, and then after about 2 years of courting her, we ended up getting married again, and this time by church. The first time we got married, nobody showed up from my side of the family. I wasn't close to none of them because of the PTSD. I had no friends showed up. It was just her family. The second time we got married, I had one whole side of the church and half the other side filled with my family, my friends, people that I served with, people, World War II veterans that were close to me. And she had her family. So it was like, she was the love of my life. And it felt so good having her back. I mean, I was blessed. I always wanted my family back. And that's what, a lot of vets, man, they get stuck because they lose their family, but you can get it back.
Wow. And would you say this is like a really special period in your life?
Yeah, it's, I'm sober. I'm able to feel everything. I have my wife, my kids, I'm working. There's a lot of good stuff going on for me.
Your heart was broken a long time ago. You took it on like you were chosen. Now you're singing your song by trying to get back to where you started before it all went wrong. But you've seen too much and your head is fucked up. What the hell